2024. Okay, so we are currently 1 month through the year out of 12 months. And I gotta say, so far it's been good. I mean, January is always kind of a weirdo month in the grand scheme of things because you have like um, just not that many albums coming out. You'll have like one or two really great ones and then some weird ones, and people kind of throwing their hat to the ring, but it's always more so a preemptive like glimpse into what the rest of the year is going to be like. And I would say this month was no different in that we did get some good stuff, frankly. I don't know. Granted, I didn't last year. I didn't listen to as much as I did within this month, or at least on a monthly basis. Um, but I am so far very excited for what's going to happen. So this video is going to be a monthly review of January 2024 in music. I'm going to talk about the albums that I listened to, and I'll also briefly touch on literally anything else that came out in the month that I missed, just very briefly though, because some stuff I just don't care about. But yeah, I don't know. Let's have fun with it. Let's talk about January, the very boring month, but whatever. Okay, so the very first part of the month is the quiet period, as I like to call it, where it's, the year has literally just started, and unless an artist decides to do like a weird like day one surprise release, literally no other music of note is coming out. That is until like the breakthrough release happens. It's like it's the first big release, which we'll get to that point. But first off, we did have some kind of interesting, very early 2024 albums. For example, on literally the 1st of January, we got this EP that gained some traction, titled Still Life, I believe, by Twikipedia. Still Life is... Okay, most of the EP is a very, like, standard, like, indie sort of fare. It's very, like, kind of soft indie rock kind of stuff. Except for the first song, I Want to Be the Guy, which is such, like, a fun dopamine hit. I genuinely really like that song so much, and I'm kind of sad the rest of the EP isn't like that one song. I don't know, it's got that Jane Remover swagger to it. I don't know, that works well for me. But yeah, like, that's for sure a very fun EP, just didn't really, like... It's gonna be one of those things where I enjoy it now, and then looking back at the rest of the year, I'll probably forget it came out, but I think for a January 1st release, that was pretty cool. We also got a debut indie rock and bedroom pop album, Shoelace and a Knot, by Yungatita, which I think the only way I can really describe that album is it looks like a Tumblr webcomic. Or does it? Well, okay, it kind of looks like off the cover, but it has that feeling, like it feels like you're in like a suburban, like coming of age kind of like online piece of media, in a way that I know that sounds silly, but genuinely, like, it works well for the vibe of the album. It is super synth heavy, is something that I noticed, and weirdly enough, at least on Music Board, which is the platform I used to review, a lot of people were dissing on the vocalist. The vocalist is good. I don't know what people were talking about. I mean, okay, it's not like technically not perfect, but like it fits the vibe very well of the album. If you're a fan at all of like the scary jokes, for instance, like give Shoelace and a Knot a shot, because it's super in line with that kind of sound. And then for the very first New Music Friday, which was very empty, but had some new releases, we have OG Keemo's Fieber. I'm gonna hope I'm pronouncing that right, but I don't speak German, so it's up in the air. But yeah, OG Keemo is a foreign rapper that I don't know all that much about. I know they've released some pretty great studio albums, but comparatively, this is actually a mixtape that is more so just kind of on a casual front of sorts. And unfortunately for me, I do have kind of a hard time getting past the language barrier. Solely for the fact that rap is a very lyrical genre, right? Like, when you listen to rap, especially if you have like a trained ear where you can hear the lyrics that are being spoken, like, on the fly, you are given a story. And unfortunately, with you know, listening to foreign rap. Like you can tell the flow is good. Like OG Keemo has a good flow. His voice is very like deep and carries his presence with it. And the production too is really great too. Like it's super good sample flips. But because I can't understand the lyrics, like I don't know, there's just a little bit of enjoyment that I just I don't get from it. But if you enjoy foreign rap at all and like you like sample based stuff, listen to it. It's good. Same day, we also got a new album that's been getting a lot of critical praise from critics. That being the debut album, Letter to Self, from the new band Sprints, which, while I didn't fully connect with the album, is still very good. There's these like heavy, you know, guitar riffs going in, and the vocals, like it has this very specific edge to it that, while like I couldn't quite find the groove in, I still think for sure if you like, if you're part of the audience that this album's for, goodness lord, it's really, really good. And like the chorus on like Literary Mind, for example, where it's like just kind of like rocking along. It makes me feel like I'm playing Rock Band on the Wii. Like I grew up playing that, like summer vacations, stuff like that, or at least like watching my sister play. Like this feels like something I would have heard on that if this album came out in that time frame, you know? I don't know, it's got good swag to it. I don't know how often I'll go back to the album. Let's just say probably not often, but I am very excited for where they go from here because this was a very promising debut. And then the day after, we got a new Windows 96 album. I am a fairly big fan of their work. I think 100 Mornings is great, and Plume Valley especially is a really interesting album. But we now have a new album that they've been releasing on a pretty consistent basis with dated new aesthetic. And it's kind of boring. Listen, I like Windows 96, but one, I'm not caught up with their new work, and two, just hearing what I have from this, it sounds flat. It's like a soda that you left on the countertop. That's what I'm listening to. Like, I guess some of the instrumentation's cool, but like, I'm a little disappointed by it. I don't know. The intro track's cool at least, but like, I want. Whatever they do next, I want it to be wackier, is what I want. I would like, show me something interesting, you know? But whatever. It's okay. Because then afterwards we get to January 12th. This is like definitively like the second part of the month, because January 12th, wow, it was stacked. You had Kid Cudi, 21 Savage, and Kali Uchis all dropping on the same night. I stayed up late that night. Now, were the albums good? To varying qualities. Let's talk about Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi is so... has me so frustrated all the time. Listen, I like a lot of his work, right? Man on the Moon 1 is a classic hip-hop album for a reason, right? That is some, like, grade A pop rap kind of stuff. The spacey beats work super well. And, of course, there's the Modern Kids See Ghost, where he collaborated with Kanye, and... while that album's kind of fallen off for me since I first heard it, like, I still think it for sure has its worth as, like, a short but very compact and amazing rap album. Kid Cudi has it in him to do good stuff, but the problem is that the man doesn't innovate. As someone who's listened to the whole Kid Cudi discography, even Speeding Bullet to Heaven, I can say for certain that that album, which admittedly, yeah, is really, really bad, like, was the only time he's ever really innovated his style ever. He's made the same, like, space rap album over and over and over, and just to, like, varying degrees of boring or worse. I want variety. I want to listen to a discography front to back and, like, hear, like, progression. I want to see someone grow in front of me. Kid Cudi's been doing the same thing. And now we get to Insano, which admittedly, to his credit, is a slightly different from his past works. It does kind of step away from the very, you know, traditional spacey sound that was seen in Man on the Moon Free, and also on the Intergalactic soundtrack. The problem is what he's replacing it with, which is sounding like every other goddamn mainstream rap album ever made. It is so bloated, dude. Why is it that many tracks long? 21 songs, that's too goddamn many. Did you hear he's making a deluxe? He's adding 18 more songs onto it. What the hell is he doing that for? And so much of it is so boring too. Like, yeah, okay, there are some good songs on it, okay? Like, Wow with A$AP Rocky, I thought that was really good. At the Party, little weird, but I like Pharrell Williams, and I think there's something good there. Okay, some of the songs too have like more pop production too, and like that sounds kind of good. I feel like if Kid Cudi made like a full-fledged pop album, that'd be really neat. Is he gonna do that? Probably not. But yeah, it's just, oh, it's so frustrating to see him do it. Why is he making bad albums? I'm hoping at some point he can actually sit down and make like just like a focused album where he just experiments and tries to make something new. Like, good on him for making the music that he wants to. Totally respect that for an artist. And if this is what he wants to make, then sure. But like, oh, it's so boring. There's nothing to it. Yeah, I was so insanely bored by the time I was done with it. I've had no desire to go back to this album in full. I don't like he was saying on Twitter too, like, oh, it's meant to be heard in full. No, it isn't. There's no flow to this. It is sitting painfully through this material. He made a spacey for all the dogs. Just not. There's just at least there's a couple good songs, but oh good lord, there's not really much of substance there at all. Really, really not a fan of that project. But adversely though, a little bit better. We then got 21 Savage's album, American Dream. This is an album that is for sure a 21 Savage album. I mean, like, he makes 21 Savage songs, which unfortunately for this album though, has me disappointed, but not for the same reasons that I'm disappointed with Kid Cudi. No, it's because this album starts unique. Both the interlude and then All of Me and then Red Rum all feature this like style of sampling. It's very like chopping up female vocals oriented. Like it gives me like the same vibes as like Hermanos, for example, from the Scaring the Hoes Deluxe. Like it has this kind of like grandiose, like almost like could be like mafia kind of feel going for it, which like with a title like American Dream, it could work cool to like do some thematic thing. And then so much more of this album is just 21 Savage songs. I thought I was gonna get something like with like a specific like flair or like an album sound to it, but then he just does his thing. I think it's partially because I'm not really the audience for his music, to be honest. I don't know. Like the way that I see this album, it just very bluntly, it's Instagram storycore. This is it's the kind of it's the kind of material is like high school boys like about to go to the football game, hey, putting Red Rum on my story. Like I don't go out of my way very often to want to listen to that. Like it's good for like, I don't know, car stereo music if you got like a speaker of friends, but like I'm gonna be playing actual music I enjoy if I'm in that scenario. I'm not gonna do that. Plus like there's better trap artists out there too. I don't know, maybe streamers that hang out with Aiden Ross just aren't really for me, but like I don't know. It's just a little frustrating is all. I mean, at least the song Red Rum's a banger though, because like I mentioned, like I think the vocal cut is really cool on that. Like it has a good vibe to the song. It's just one of those things where like it makes me frustrated the rest of the album doesn't like it. But hey, at least if rap was a little disappointing, the good news is that we got a really good Uchis album. Orquideas is interestingly enough just really, really good and well varied. It is mostly a reggaeton album, which unfortunately is usually not my favorite genre. Like I've tried listening to like Bad Bunny's Inferno Sin T, for example, and I found it like just really repetitive. But this album, on the other hand, like while it has mostly that sound, varies it up. It's willing to go more into like other genres within the Latin space of things, and it works really well. Like it has really good pace. It has like, of course, those moments where Uchis' voice is just going and the instrumentals there, it's beautiful, which is exactly what I want out of Uchis. Like hell yeah, give me that. Other moments like the party a little bit, and you have some of the features that kind of like I forget which one, but like kind of go more of like breaking it down style. I don't know what I mean by that, but I found it really fun. Like I don't know, Uchis is a good artist. They genuinely do consistently good stuff. Like I haven't heard anything bad from them necessarily, and I think for the gorgeous moments that this album has, and generally its pace, I enjoy that album a ton. I think it is for sure worthwhile a listen no matter what. And yeah, give it a shot. Don't sleep on it. Like, even if you don't go out of your way to like the weirdo niche music, it's just easy to enjoy. It's good. So obviously, out of the albums that released on January 12th, Kali Uchis was my favorite. Right? Nah, that's Bill ryder-jones, baby. I listened to lechyd on a whim, and oh my god, that car ride I put it on. Oh, good lord, it was so good. Oh, dude. Oh my god, that album. Oh, I don't even know where to begin with it. That singer, songwriter, chamber pop stuff, oh my god. Bill ryder-jones figured it out there, okay? I feel like it's the sort of album where when I hear it, I pick up like a slew of multiple artists where it like reminds me of them. Like there's parts where like, oh, this sounds like Sufjan Stevens. This sounds like Jeff Buckley. This sounds like Beach House. But it's like making those comparisons over and over is not helpful because it's taking those inspirations and then just kind of hodgepodging all of them together into this like really beautiful and intricately put together album. Like it sounds like the album cover. It makes me feel like I'm going through this like nice little seaside painted city, just wandering around and like taking photos of the buildings. Like it is such a nice and gentle vibe that like has some parts that are super emotionally devastating and has other parts that are really nice too. For instance, like the first two tracks of the album, really great lead in, where it's like, I know it's like this baby, where it has like the like da 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 ba da da ba ba ba. Like it's so nice, but then it kind of like picks up a little bit, where it's like it sets you an ease to the rest of the album, which then immediately having that followed by the second track, "A Bad Wind Blows in My Heart" Part 3, with that chorus, oh my god, like that's like hook, line, and sinker. We're going through that. It's like how do you go and start an album with like such an emotional beginning? And then on top of that, you then also have the song "This Can't Go On," which I think is for sure up there with my favorite songs that have come out this month. That is so like, oh my god, it's so devastating. I mean, I'll talk about more some of the other albums, but like we really got a good month for like singer songwriter type stuff, because like, good god, wow, I'm left kind of speechless by it. Like it's so grandiose, but like personally grounded too in this way, where it's like, yeah, this is what that like folk singer songwriter type stuff's about, you know. And the rest of the album is also equally like really good too. I'm not gonna go full on like talking about each thing because like some tracks do kind of bleed into each other, but I think it's for sure something that if the album cover looks cool to you and you like gentler singer-songwriter albums and you want to have your heart punched a little bit, lechyd like is genuinely really, really good and deserves the praise that it gets. I'm recording the next part of this video on another day because I got interrupted and then I put this off for like a week because I just had homework. It's already like mid-February at this point. I'm so late. Anyways, Glass Beach. I've been a Glass Beach fan since like 2020, where it was like around the summer, and my sister found it, absolutely loved it, and then shared it with me, and very quickly it became a very like defining album to myself. Still to this day, even having heard hundreds of albums past the point that I originally heard the first Glass Beach album, that first project is still one of my favorite albums of all time. Just undisputably. Like I think what's most cool about it, among all of the it's so well put together and catchy like hooks and riffs and melodies, and the crazy vocal performance too, is just how earnest it is. Like it is so bombastic and very gay, but it knows it's that and it plays to that, and it just makes an album that is like has such an identity to itself, and I love listening to that album. So with that being said, I've been very excited to hear this album. I've been keeping up with this album since this was teased in like, I want to say late 2022 or early 2023, something like that. I've been keeping up with this for a while. I've been very, very excited to hear Plastic Death. And while this is not on par with the first album, because of course it wouldn't, it is absolutely not that album either. Rather than going through with their like emo sound like they did with the last project, Plastic Death is pretty much a prog rock album through and through. Super duper In Rainbows inspired, and with these very complex build-ups within each track where you put on one song and just keeps on going and going and going until you're like, I don't know, like 6 minutes in. Or I guess we're 4 minutes in. Some songs are long, not all of them though. I think, like, for example, one of my favorite songs from the album Camp, which is the introduction song, has a very strong parallel to Classic J Dies and Goes to Hell Part 1, where, you know, that song begins with like the like slow like piano introduction and then abruptly cuts to jamming out, you know, having like that more bombastic section. Whereas with Camp, when you're listening to it, it starts, you know, with a piano and then it just continues with the piano. It just keeps on going, no stop or nothing. And it makes such like, it just has such impact, because then eventually it gets to like the real high points where it's just sprawling out of control, and it's so good to listen to. And they do that for basically every single song off this. I am such a big fan of how this project does what it does. It's just mwah, chef's kiss. I don't have anything else to say, really. It's also why it's no surprise that this album is so popular with the music nerd community as a whole, which I think is hella deserved. Because, okay, on a technical level, I do think it's better than their first album. They're clearly improved. They've used the 5-year gap between these albums to a very, very large benefit, where it feels like the songwriting, although way more vague than their first album, it still hits a very personal, close to home place. Not to mention that it actually works out with the singing too, because they did change their singing approach here as well, where instead of, again, being very direct and bombastic and the emo vocals, right, they do that. No, it's instead just part of the ambience too. Like, this album has a very like watery kind of vibe going on, and this washed out voice kind of ebbing in and out of clarity works super well for all of these songs, along with a tight pacing. Like, this is everything I could want from an album, and especially from a follow-up album for Glass Beach, where I want to see them improve as a band and go new directions. Like, this is all I could have asked for. Not to mention with another amazing cover, which I guess, since I do own the record, I'll do a little quick vinyl review. Why the hell not? I might as well. Run for Cover, as always, does a pretty good job, but they really killed it with this vinyl pressing. If you at all like this album, like, I kid you not, this is worth the money. They have a glow-in-the-dark front cover, where it's basically all like, I'm blanking on a name, but like there's grooves on it. Like, it's a very texture-based feeling. It's really good. That carries over to the back side as well. And there's also a inner gatefold that explains part of what influenced this album, and just like really, really cool visuals all around. Like, this fucks, right? Might as well also show off the inner sleeves too, as I think these are pretty great artwork wise, and also show off the lyrics to the album, which admittedly you will want to read because they're kind of hard to understand. Here's the other one too. I unfortunately did get a small seam split, but that's on shipping, not really the company. And also the sound quality themselves of the records, really, really good. The album has great dynamics, especially, I mean, already on streaming, but especially on vinyl. Like, it just sounds well made altogether. However, I will say the one problem that I do have with the records is because I got the glow in the dark variant, which I think was a cool pickup, and I don't actually have any other glow in the dark records, so, you know, I might as well go for it. The problem is that if you're listening with headphones like I often do, you can hear a lot of surface noise. That's more so due to the fact that this is, you know, a glow in the dark record, which means that in order to have like the coding and stuff like that, like, you know, it just leads to more noise on the album itself. Fortunately, it's not very noticeable if you're playing on speakers. I've tested out either way. But yeah, for headphones listeners, I would recommend just getting the orange variant, which I'm pretty sure is still on their web store. And for the price, like, it's a good pickup. Oh, also not to mention that they pressed the album on 45 RPM, which like a lot of albums on 2LP don't do that, but like they totally can. And they actually take advantage of that. And I think it works well for this album too, because then you can slow it down on the other speed, and that kind of works to the album's benefit as well. But yeah, so far, at least at the time I'm recording this, easily album of the year. I'm not even gonna detest that or anything. By far the best thing to come out in January as well. Absolutely a must-hear album if you're interested in checking out weird artsy stuff, because that's what it's at. Although, just 1 week later, we got another pretty good contender. Okay, so the real last part to the month, I would say, was when the Smiles' new album, Wall of Eyes, dropped. And that it was pretty well anticipated, and you know what? The Smile did actually deliver on this. Admittedly, it is very hard to talk about this album without just making Radiohead comparisons. I'm gonna be honest. Everyone's doing it. I did it myself when reviewing it. Like, it is so... It's so hard to separate the Smile from Radiohead. But I think, to the Smile's credit, they are indeed two different groups. Like, songs like Read the Room or Friend of a Friend, for example, like, those aren't Radiohead songs. Those are for sure the Smile songs. But then you also have your Teleharmonics, which, yeah, okay, those are pretty much Radiohead songs. Okay, that's just Radiohead I'm hearing. Either way, I digress. I think the most important thing to do the Radiohead referencing those stuff is, I think one of the biggest strengths of Radiohead, and I'm going to stop talking about Radiohead, I'm just going to talk about the Smile past this point, because I think it's a little annoying. One of the biggest strengths about Radiohead as an artist that's been seen throughout their whole discography is that when looking at their work, they continually evolve based off of their past point, right? Like, they made Pablo Honey, which was like fine, but then they made The Bends, which was already really, really, really great, and then they kept on going, right? That's how they were able to get to the OK Computers and the Kid A's and the In Rainbows. Like, the reason why they have such definitive out their albums is because they just kept on experimenting and going beyond the standard for their music. And so I think it's important when looking at the Smile to see how they are innovating even further and how their music will evolve going forward. And I have to say, if this is where they're at on album 2, compared to where Radiohead was with album 2, with The Bends, which is a good album, this is even better. Is it weird to say I'm more excited for their third album than their second album, which is already out? Yeah, a little weird. But hearing this, I hear so much potential for the band. It makes me really goddamn excited. Like, the intro for Wall of Eyes, for example, which, you know, the self-titled song, like, really draws me into the kind of, like, off-kilter atmosphere of it all. Like, it's slightly more grounded. Like, it's not, like, completely an out-of-body experience like some of the Kid A type stuff, but it feels like it's accentuating very real experiences, especially when you get to Bending Hectic, which I know was released last year, but counting it as a song from this year, if you could, you know, include it in the album, I think that's probably the best song so far of January. Like, yeah, that's the best song of January for sure. Like, oh my god, it is like soul crushing. I mean, I know that's what Mr. York does best, but like, really listening to that song, it's so like, the atmosphere. Oh my goodness. Like, the way it sounds like it's teetering between life and death, like, you know, using the turning on the road analogy throughout the whole song. Like, oh my goodness. Oh, I listened to it while driving. Jesus Christ. That was something. So what I'll say is this, is that if you are at all a fan of Radiohead's work, I think pretty important to check this out. Like, it just trust me on this, all right? It is for sure an important album to, honestly, the whole year, but especially like early on in the year. It's already really, really great. And I feel like in just 8 songs, they made a really complete package where each song I feel like is fleshed out. Goddamn, they're all really fleshed out and kind of, you know, it's an album of multiple different worlds sequenced, and I'm always a sucker for that kind of thing. That's just cool. It might not beat out Plastic Death for me personally, but I cannot fault people for saying this is album of the year so far, because it's pretty damn close. I need some water. shit, that's good. Oh, wow, that's good. So here's the thing. I'm not admittedly perfect. What I've talked about for this video is what I listen to myself. I don't really go my way to listen to every single new thing that comes out, but I can at least review everything else. This next segment is just going to be me going rapid fire throughout everything else that released in January. I'm just going to give my quick thoughts based off the first impressions that I got, just kind of skipping through these projects or these singles or whatever. I'm not putting any thought into this. Isaiah Rashad released a Spotify 10th anniversary live session of sorts for some songs off Sylvia demo, which I actually just got the vinyl arrived for in the mail. And I have to say, big fan of Sylvia demo. I think that album's gorgeous. I listened to that for the first time this month. But these are also pretty great live renditions too. Like Rip Kevin Miller of the live band. It's pretty good. Green Day released a new album with Saviors, and it just sounds like the most baseline Green Day, like, I didn't hear any substance in that. I'm sure for fans of Green Day, it's either good or really bad. I haven't listened to any Green Day. I just know, like, I'm not... Why would I start with Saviors? Come on. Lyrical Lemonade also made a compilation album with All Is Yellow. It's pretty much just like a DJ Khaled album from the looks of it. It seems fine. I don't care enough though. Atomic Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro released a song with facts. I'm not gonna listen to it, but I saw a clip. Jesus Christ. Eric Doa released Doa. Sounds like pop rap. I feel like if I listened to it, I would forget it immediately after. Lil Nas X released J Christ, featuring him on the cross on the album cover, which I think the single is very kind of flat. Like, there's not much substance to the single, but can I just say, like, why are Christians overreacting the way they are? Just this is just an unrelated side tangent, but, like, you guys need to stop, like, getting up in arms over everything. Dude's just drawing a Christ parallel. Like, I don't know. He's not even doing anything, like, crazy offensive with it or anything. Like, I just... like, I feel like it's the only thing of note, really, with the single is that reactionary Christians are, like, flinching and like, oh, he's Christ. And it's like, okay. If you actually listen to the music, it's just kind of boring. Lil Dicky whipped out his penis. Everyone told him to put it away. Boldy James released a new project with Penalty of Leadership, and I'm sure if I heard it, I would actually enjoy it quite a bit. I like me some Boldy here and there. I just didn't get around to checking it out, but at least, like, hearing a few songs off it, yeah, it sounds like Boldy James. For sure does not sound as distinct as something like Super Tecmo Bow does, but whatever, it's Boldy, it's fine. I feel the same way about the new Benny the Butcher album. I haven't listened to any Benny album in full yet, but this sounds like a pretty good major label debut with a lot of, like, pretty well-produced tracks, and Benny seems to flow, so... I would probably enjoy this album if I heard it. I'll get around to it if I feel like it. America Hackman's Big Sigh seems to have a pretty distinct, like, aura around it. It reminds me of lechyd a good bit. I probably would get something out of it, but I just don't feel like listening to it. Ice Spice released Think You the Shit Fart, a song that I am, like, 99% convinced Ice Spice came up the title with first, and then, like, spent one day making the rest of the song around the title. It's... listen, I think Ice Spice can be fine sometimes, but there's nothing to that song. It's just, you know, like a fart, it passes and goes. Tizo released a How Do You Sleep at Night Deluxe. It's the songs are fine. I don't know, it's Tizo. Jid released a freestyle that sounds genuinely really, really good. I mean, that's just kind of what you give Jid, just, like, quality stuff, but like damn, like, that's a freestyle? Shoot, like, I don't know, I like that a lot. Cheekface's new album sounds like something I would hear, like, off the Needle Juice Records label, like just going way into their discography. It's kind of wacky and weird, and I'm sure for some people they'll get something out of it. But like, I don't really get it. I don't know. 6ix9ine blackballed himself. I don't know. Bring Me the Horizon released a Bring Me the Horizon song. I know some people are really excited for their like next EP or whatever. Good for them. I am most of the time pretty indifferent on Bring Me the Horizon. I feel the same way about Kool-Aid. Same thing with the Games album. Like, I don't know. it's rap. I don't know, like, it's fine. Oh, then there was also the Megan Thee Stallion and then Nicki Minaj tracks. Listen, I don't know nothing about the drama at all, nor do I really care to like research or anything. But what I can say is that one of them's a fine Megan Thee Stallion song, and the other one's like by far the worst like thing I've ever heard of Nicki Minaj. Like, oh my god, like if we're just going off like a song basis on who wins, Megan clears. I'm just being honest. Oh yeah, Bruiser Wolf released an album too. I should actually listen to that. I really liked Bruiser Wolf's verse off Quaranta, and like he's just got a funny flow. He sounds like a cartoon character. Like I like that. I don't know. I'm sure the album's good. Similarly, the new Future Islands album looks pretty promising too. It seems like a small little good like synth-based kind of project, and that seems fun. Okay, and then lastly, Cemetery dropped a song. It sounds like Cemetery. Okay, it is clearly getting dark out, so my face is not being illuminated enough, so I'm gonna try to wrap up this whole thing. So that was the gist of what released in January. I know by the time this video comes out, it's gonna be way past January. It's gonna be like mid-February, I'm assuming. So how about we actually go over some albums that are gonna be coming out, like, well, okay, one's already come out, but let's talk about some new releases that are gonna be upcoming. Specifically, the album I was referencing that already came out is Loving's Any Light, which had a single come out in January, and that track was really good. And hearing the full album, yeah, it's similarly really good. I'll detail it more when I actually make the February video, but Loving's really good at just making very well-rounded, soft indie rock albums that I inevitably return to over and over, and they really stick with me. So hopefully this album's not any different, but hearing it so far, at least the first couple listens I have done, yeah, it's pretty good. Desert Sand Feels Warm at Night's also dropping a new album. I listen to him while I read, and you know what? I'm sure it'll be good too. MGMT's Loss of Life also looks really, really interesting. I've only heard Little Dark Age from them, but I love that album, and judging off the singles that I've heard, this is going to be a really promising release from next month. Might be even the best. We'll just have to see how things shake up. Faye Webster has a new project coming out, and I am in the camp of I've never heard a Faye Webster album in full, but Faye Webster is in line with other music that I like, and so I'll hear the album when it comes out, and I'll probably enjoy it. Alternatively, Ariana Grande is releasing a new album after a while, and that's going to be coming out I think that's in March. Anyways, that's been a very highly promoted release. I'm sure it'll be like one of the biggest pop albums to release from this year. And hearing the single so far, like, seems solid enough. I mean, for like mainstream pop music, like, which I'm usually not that big of a fan of, seems fine. But what I'm more excited for is the Adrian Lenker album, which is going to take me out back and shoot me, because Jesus Christ, those two songs that I've heard, oh my goodness, they're so sad. Like, they already cook, but like, if the album is like the singles, it's probably gonna be my favorite like folk release of the year. Like, just bar none. They win by default. And coming out a little later into the year is Justice's new album. And I've only heard their self-titled back from like the 2000s, but that's like one of my favorite electronic albums of all time, and hearing the new single of Tame Impala was pretty good, honestly. So I am very interested to see where this album goes, but it could be pretty promising. I don't know. Along with a slew of other like miscellaneous artists that have albums coming out eventually, trademark, That's, I think the two big examples are Playboy Cardi and JPEG Mafia. At least for me personally, the singles that we have been hearing from Playboy Cardi, with like, there's been like 5 different singles posted on Instagram, and they all sound pretty good and innovative, very Drain Gang esque, but hey, he's moving to a new sound, and I think that's pretty neat. And as for JPEG Mafia, I mean, as a very big and annoying JPEG Mafia fan, I am absolutely excited to see what he does next. I don't know what direction he's gonna go in, but I'm just hoping it'll be good. And I'm hoping it'll be better than Vultures. See you for February.